Hello and welcome along to the final instalment from this head coach story in FM21 with me, Daniel. We're back, as we customarily do at the end of these saves, 10 years in the future after our retirement. After looking back last time at our career and how we succeeded and moved throughout the game, and a couple of little failures and blips in the road as well. Today, we're going to be looking back 10 years later to see if anything massive has changed, particularly in UK football, but we're also then going to have a look to see how our clubs are getting on 10 years after our careers finish. So if you're looking forward to this one, it's something we always do every year just for a bit of fun at the end. Please do chuck a thumbs up on the video. I hope you all enjoyed the return of the EFL football season yesterday. There's a link to our podcast channel in the eye above where we've got loads of EFL based content. You can catch up with our Bangor City Build a Nation save, which is running every weekday at the moment at 3:30. That's up there too. And a Twitch channel where we've got regular football watch alongs too. So please do come and get involved. I'd love to see you along. It's been brilliant hanging out and having a chat with you all. But today, we just want to have a little bit of fun at the end of this save and see what's been going on since we left our clubs and since we ended our career after our England sacking 10 summers ago. So let's start firstly by having a look at our profile. I always like to do this for a little bit of fun. 10 years after leaving our final role, we've not had a job. What's our reputation like? Let's have a quick glance, shall we? We've still got nearly a 4.5-star reputation despite not having a job for 10 years. That seems a little unrealistic. Most of our attributes are still very good. And in theory, at this point, we could still go and get a very top job if we wanted it. I mean, I'm looking across Europe and the likes of Braga, Marseille, some very good international jobs all coming along. We could probably get one of them if we wanted to. But that's only a little fun bit to look at. What we want to see is how the landscape of British football has changed, and more importantly, how our former clubs are getting on. So let's go and have a look again at Brechin City. See if 10 years has done anything kind to them. Pat Nevin now, the director of football, the legend, would be 81 years of age. I'm presuming he's probably retired, but hopefully they're still doing pretty well. So actually, 2 years ago, they got promoted as champions to Scottish League One again. I think for the first time since we did it, or the second time, since we did it, and the first time in nearly 20 years. But unfortunately, they came straight back down in bottom place. So as it stands, Brechin City back in Scottish League 2. Let's go and have a look at the staff. We're not going to do this for all the clubs, but I just want to see if Pat Nevin's still there. He's not. He's been replaced by someone called Lewis Shaw, who, decent judge of potential, but nothing in terms of ability. So the legend of Pat Nevin, I'm afraid, is gone. Let's move on to Arbroath, who were the second club in our career, one of the shortest stints we had. And again, still in Scottish League One. There's not an awful lot of turnaround this year. They did actually have one season where they got relegated into Scottish League 2, but came straight back up via the playoffs. So Arbroath, a little bit hit and miss there, not ideal. On to Dundee, where we won our first trophy and had a brilliant spell. Probably the club that really catapulted our career. And they've become a bit of a yo-yo club. So they'd just gone down, hadn't they? When we look back 10 years ago, they went straight back up as champions. 3 years later down, 2 years later up, down and up again. And in 2 seasons, well, they've been secure in the top tier. Alan McGregor now in charge of them, and they're doing all right in the early season cup, the League Cup that is, before the season starts. From Dundee, we move on to Hibernian. Let's see how they've been getting on. They're 6th in the Scottish Premiership at the start of the season, so no relegations. However, after a few years of finishing 3rd, they did drop a little bit last season, and they've just chucked the odd bad year in there amongst all of the consistency. But generally speaking, over the 10 years, they're still the 3rd best side in Scottish football. Behind the old firm is Hibernian doing their job. I don't think we can be too disappointed by that. They're still playing in Europe most seasons. They've done as much as they can. Then came our first move to England with Derby, so let's see what the 10 years have done to them. They were, in 2034, a championship side in the playoffs. Since then, they missed out on the playoffs and gradually slid down the league every season, until eventually they got back in the top half in 2040. But they've never been back in the playoffs since I was last year as England manager. So actually a really disappointing spell for Derby County. But they're still going, they're still a solid championship club. And given the events in real life over the summer, I think they'd be quite happy with that. Let's move on from Derby to our first Premier League job, which was Southampton. Going to be interesting to see how they've developed, because they had some really good players. And they were on the cusp of letting most of them go. So they finished 7th and snuck into Europe in our last year with England. They then just gradually dropped down in the top half before getting back into Europe for 3 seasons. And then back down to mid-table where they've been ever since. And they're gradually getting worse each season. So actually, most of the clubs that we've been at have gradually just started to slide very slightly. Let's go and have a look at Tottenham Hotspur, who should be the ones really that changed the game here. That's when we won the title with them, 28-29. And in the season we were last with England, they finished third. They've actually had a huge number. 7 second place finishes in 10 years. And in the other 3 years, they've been 4th, 5th and 4th. So they've been one of the most consistent sides in the league. They've got Mark van Bommel in charge. We are still the only manager who's managed to win a Premier League title with them. Having said that, they've won the Champions League twice more in the last 5 years. They've been runners-up in the Premier League virtually every season, as we know. They've won the Europa League twice. So actually, the last 5 years, they've won the Champions League twice and been a finalist once. And the other 2 years, they've won the Europa League. That's pretty incredible, really. They've won the European Super Cup twice. They've won the FA Cup twice more, including the year that we finished with England. They've been runners-up in the Carabao Cup a couple of times. And they won a Community Shield the month after we left England. So they've done pretty well. They've become a serial winning side. I said it last time out. It's a slight regret of mine that we didn't stay and try a bit longer. And look, their captain's still Loic Willems. He's got to be, mid-30s now. 35 years of age. Has made 590 league appearances for Tottenham. Is that a record? Let's go and have a look at it. Their most league goals by a player was Federico Pereira as well, 252. Now an unemployed director of football. And Loic Willems, if he stays with Spurs 2 more years as first choice keeper, will overtake Steve Perryman for the record league appearances at the club. That would be a remarkable achievement. So I really hope for his sake he can go on and do that. That would be a moment in history for us. From Tottenham, though, we moved on to Real Madrid. Let's see how they got on. Of course, we had a really disappointing year with them. It was quite frustrating for us that we dropped away so quickly towards the end. But let's see how they've gone since us. Have they won many titles? Only 2 titles in the last 10 years. And ironically, they've finished third most seasons. So probably behind both Barcelona and Atletico. So we can't be too disappointed by that. Their key player's an Englishman. Leonardo Jardim's the manager. They've still got a very good side. I wonder where that kid is actually. We're going to go and look at some of those players who would still have been very young 10 years ago and see how they've been getting on. But I can't see that the young striker, I think it was Zamorano, wasn't it, who was coming through, has made it into their first team and stuck around. Let's move on to Juventus. Of course, they had wonder kids like Bongiorni in the team. We would expect them to still have a couple of those players. They should be dominating Italian football still, and they definitely are. One blip where they finished third and one where they finished second. Aside from that, though, they've been dominant. Lee Miller is their manager. That is absolutely insane. So let's have a look. He's had a similar path to us. The former Falkirk player at the start of the game managed Dundee and Hibs at the start, then went to Celtic, then Benfica, Hertha Berlin and Juventus. Not got the greatest attributes in the world. They've still got Gerard Ambroise as their skipper. He was the record signing at any club we were at during our career. The director of football paid 88 million for him. And much the similar story. 430 league appearances later, he's still going, he's still world class, and he's got over 150 caps for Haiti as well. Brilliant effort from the lad. Let's move on to Glasgow Rangers, the final club of our career. They are still in the Scottish Premiership, and to be fair, we've restarted the good times. We won the title in 2032-33, they retained it the year after. Albeit they had a couple of bad years after that. They've then basically won it half the time since. So they're splitting the titles with Celtic. They are still a good force in Scottish football. And that's something they hadn't done in the 20 years before we took charge. So we've got to be pleased with that. João Batista is still there as their skipper. He is 34 years of age now. His next appearance will be his 400th. And he lifted the title for them last season. He was brilliant for us. He came in and had a real impact in our last season there. So I'm delighted to see he's still at the club. Shall we see if anyone else is about? Because of course this was our last club. So it's more likely than any of the others. But I can't see anyone. I think he's the only one, you know. He is. So João Batista is the sole remaining competitor from our squad that won the league in 2033. And 11 years later, he's done exactly the same again. We should be so proud of him. And then let's finish with England. Of course, we were considered to have disappointed in charge of them and had a disaster by only reaching the quarter-final of the World Cup. They're now ranked second in the world. Turkey are ranked fourth, so they must have had a renaissance again. But their second key player is Derek Rawson, who's now at Real Madrid at 34. He was brilliant. Now got 159 caps, 75 goals. But he's been overtaken by Phil Lawson, who's also at Real Madrid. He is 25 years of age, and we could have done with him when we were in charge of England. They've got some really good players, and they're all playing abroad. Dean Brooks at Barcelona, and Amadi was just coming through in the under-21s. We nearly gave him a debut in a friendly, and he's now become the best player in that squad by a mile. So excellent work. Cardiff are ranked as the 6th major club in England. We're going to have to go and look at that in a minute. But in terms of England, have they won any tournaments? That's what I want to know. They won the 2038 World Cup, and they were runners-up in the European Championships the summer just gone. So actually, they've really recovered since we were in charge. Maybe it was a disaster the whole time. Of course, we had a lot of older players in our squad. There will have been a big regeneration between that and the next World Cup. And they've been in the final of both since. I mean, there can't be any complaints really, can there? Let's move on and look at some of the star players. So I wanted to look at Zamorano, who I knew was going to be an important player. And he is still at Real Madrid. That's interesting. So at 30 years of age, he's still going there. He's only made 190 appearances though. So he's been a backup player presumably for a lot of that. He's a world-class player, great personality, and he scored over 1 in 2 in the league games he has played. So I'm not sure why he's played so little football, but Zamorano has been a bit of a superstar. Had 1 year there where he virtually scored 1 a game. So certainly making an impact at the club. Let's have a look at Bongiorni as well. Didn't quite have the finishing ability, but was developing really well. He's still at Juventus. So there's an awful lot more one-club men in this save. He's become a superstar for Italy, scored goals galore for Juventus, and is still going now as a squad player at 32. Brilliant. Really brilliant to see. I want to have a quick look at Rangers, at that Peter Burns, the right back we had. He's at Dundee United now. It didn't really work out for him. You can see he's probably had some injury concerns along the way. Because he was someone who looked like he was going to be a real talent. But it doesn't seem to have happened here. And his injury page is over a page long. And there's a lot of 4 weeks, 2 months, 3 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 weeks in there. So it's just held him back. Consistent, regular injuries has stopped him from becoming a superstar. We're going to have to look to see if Saravakos is still going, aren't we? Because he was the main man for us. Well, it doesn't look like he's in the game, so let's look for Stephen Hilton instead. He'd been signed at Southampton but couldn't join till he was 18, and we left the club before then. But he's gone on to have a wonderful career with both Southampton and then Paris Saint-Germain. And he's still going in 2045. I mean, it's an incredible career. So actually, from a club point of view, there's been a lot of disappointments, particularly in the early clubs in our career that we managed. We did a good job for them, but they seem to have fallen away a bit since we've been there. However, the big clubs have gone on leaps and bounds, and some of the star players have continued to really dominate world football and go on and have exceptional careers in the game. But with that done, let's go and have a look at the English pyramid, and we'll look at the Scottish one as well, just to see what's been going on, because this Cardiff situation is really throwing me a little bit. So why are they one of the star clubs in English football? Chelsea have won the last 4, Manchester United the 6 before, so that's not particularly exciting. Let's have a look also though at where people have been finishing, because Cardiff seem to be ranked as a very good side now. And exactly, they're expected to finish 6th, they're in the Champions League. So what on earth has been going on here in recent years? Last season Cardiff finished 3rd. Are they the side that have then broken into the top 6? Because the year before they finished 8th, the year before 6th, the year before that they were mid-table. So it's only actually the last 3 years or so they've really been able to get into Europe, and they've sustained that pressure, to be fair to them. So let's have a look at how they're getting on and who their star players are. So Stephen Rimmer is their best player, and he's one of the best strikers in world football at 23. So that probably helps them a little bit. And is that, yes, look, they won the FA Cup and the Europa Conference last season. And he came through at Derby. One of our clubs in the head coach. So their last 3 seasons have been absolutely exceptional. And have now got a very good team about. There's a £60 million Welshman here. Jordan Nash is one of the best defenders in world football. What on earth is going on at Cardiff City? Fair play to them for breaking the top 6. Was it a massive owner maybe? I guess that side of it's a bit harder to tell. But it really has been a meteoric rise for them. Oh look, here we go. It coincides perfectly. 28th of March 2041. New chairman Hassan Al-Shamari takes over, and he's a tycoon. So this is where it really changed, and now Cardiff City seem to be in progress to becoming the new Manchester City, the new Chelsea of years gone by. Let's have a look at their transfer spending to try and work out where it's all come from. So wow, there's 2 massive years. If we go back to the season before, which was 2043-44 season, spent £223 million. Went big on signings, and they've got some crackers in. And in the first year that the Tycoon was in, 2041, it seems like they've also gone big there. 196 million. And half of that was on a £77 million player, Anthony Wright, a Cypriot international who was signed from Arsenal at the end of the season. So that was the Tycoon's first signing. 77 million is a big statement of intent. They've had some massive ones since then. 107 the year after. I mean, it's astonishing, really. Cardiff City are the new Tycoon club of English football. Interesting to see how that pans out. Let's go down to the Championship and have a look at there. Good to see that Luton Town are still in there. We've also got Chesterfield back up there. They, of course, started in the National League, so a big rise for them. I don't think there's any other massive surprises in England's second tier here. I'm just looking up. No one else more than a division apart. League One. Just looking for the winners. Some interesting ones in there. York from the National League North. Wrexham from the National League. Anyone that's come the other way. Any former Premier League clubs. Doesn't really look like it. Notts County back up from the National League 2 divisions. The rest of it just won either way though. So let's have a look at League 2. Again, I'm looking for clubs that might have started in the Championship. But I think most of them have stayed put. Just Wycombe Wanderers who have gone down to League 2 here. Rotherham as well. So 2 of the sides that were relegated in real life have now dropped down to League 2. If we have a look at the Vanarama National League, is there anybody in there of a surprise? Wigan Athletic. And by the looks of them winning it 4 years ago, they are yo-yoing in and out of non-league football. Oldham are still in there as well. Stevenage back in there. Couple of surprises down there. Wigan in the National League would probably be quite an interesting save to take on, I'd imagine. Their key player, Ryan Walters-Hutchcox, is okay. So, having just come down from League 2, they'd be a lovely club to take on. And then down to the National League North or South. Hitching up in the north, that's remarkable considering they're, 30 miles north of London. Harrogate back down a couple of divisions. No other massive surprises there, I don't think. Barrow from League 2 down as well. And then let's have a look at the National League South. Any big shocks to finish us off? I don't think so. That league actually seems to be the most consistent. Cheltenham the only side that are a real surprise from League 2. And aside from that, that league is pretty much as we would expect it to be. So very interesting English football has turned out to be. Let's go and have a look at the Scottish Premiership. Okay, so we've seen that Rangers and Celtic have split the titles over the last 10 years. And there probably hasn't been as much change around in terms of the Scottish leagues. It's a pretty familiar top tier. There are a couple of bigger clubs missing out, and we'll see them as we go down, of course. So in the Championship, we've got Hamilton, we've got Dunfermline, but again, no massive shocks. Ross County, who have been in the top tier a little while. But there's nothing really standing out here. Stenhousemuir in the Championship, obviously a good side. They've made their way back up as a forfar. Let's have a look at League 1. Arbroath still in there. Raith Rovers dropped down. Of course, this is the perfect explanation of the difference between 2 universes in FM. Because Raith Rovers, for those of you who are following the Bangor City Build a Nation save, are one of the biggest powerhouses in Scottish football. And here, they're stuck in the bottom end of League 1. It just tells you everything that can be different in 2 universes. Stirling have got themselves back up to League 1. That's nice to see. In League 2, Kelty Hearts not having a big meteoric rise they're expected to have in real life. Ayr United down in a 4th tier. So there are a few surprises. But regardless of that, this has been a wonderful save. And the 10 years since, although some disappointment for some of our older clubs, has been a really interesting look back. Because there are some things I didn't expect to see. There are some leagues that have just gone a little bit weird. The English League being dominated by 6 titles in a row, then 4 titles in a row. But also the fun story of some of the players too. So if you did enjoy that quick look back, we always do it at the end of every save. Please do chuck a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe down below and turn that notification bell on for weekday content from Bangor City and our Build a Nation save. It's hotting up and we should have a grandstand few years to finish. So please do check it out if you haven't already. We're 140 odd episodes in, so you've got plenty of catching up you can do too. There's also a link in the eye above to the Twitch channel and to the podcast channel where we've kicked off the new season 2. And we're going to have plenty of specials over the weekend here up until the release of FM22 as well. So please do stick along for that. A massive thank you for watching as always. Slightly different today, just a quick look back at our career and a quick look 10 years on as well. But a massive thank you for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow for Brechin City as we continue to build the Welsh nation.